Hi guys, this is Mike Rich 94 and this is my solo basing guide for the AoD School FC. To start out, we're going to look at gear recommendations. You're going to want to have your best in slot gear for DPS, so Tectonic would be the best for Magic. For the pocket slot, you want to be using a Scrimshaw of the Elements for more damage, or if your team doesn't all have tier 92s, you want to be using an Illuminated Book of War, which adds 3 stacks temporarily throughout the fight to add hit chance. You want to use a Death Touch bracelet or Dominion Tower gloves if you're 4-ticking. For an aura, you want to use either Dark Magic or Supreme Runic Accuracy. You can also use Maniacal Aura if you're comfortable with high hit management. As for a familiar, I really like the Pack Mammoth because of the special that allows you to eat food without losing adrenaline, which is especially helpful when you're taking high magic hits and you want to try and Sunshine or something like that. Otherwise, you can use a Pack Yak or a Titan if you're comfortable with food management. Looking at the inventory, you want to make sure that you have a Gothic Staff because the base is going to be responsible for keeping G-Staff specs on AoD throughout the fight. I like to use Gothic Staff as my third threshold after Wild Magic and Asphyxiate, and especially earlier in the fight, I used it as my first threshold to get stacks on next early. Gothic's Rests are great for topping off your HP. I like drinking them when you're 7k HP or above, and this allows you to heal 500 per sip, and you can drink it during a channeled ability such as Asphyxiate without canceling it. Blue Jellyfish are great for combo eating, so you can eat food, a brew dose, and a jellyfish all in the same tick. I bring a Bladed Dive switch to help with moving necks or to go to the center to take a bomb. And I have Mind Runes for stagger. You want to be bringing a number of different debuffs, including Vuln, which increases the damage dealt to necks by 10%, Stagger, which decreases her hit chance by 10%, or Enfeeble, which decreases the damage she deals by 10%. And then for my BOB, I just fill it up with Sailfish. Now a little bit more background about basing. What's different about AoD is you shouldn't be using your shield until the third phase when you're waiting for the team to attack next again, but otherwise you're just going to be a DPSer that's holding her aggression. Next does have enrage stacks with defensive resets just like at raids with Beastmaster, but it's not worth explaining because you should just avoid shield camping or using any shield abilities until the third phase. So you just want to use your DPS gear and keep your HP around or above 7,000 at all times to prevent dying from high hits or multiple magic attacks. In terms of Nex's aggression, she will always aggro on the first person to attack her after a special, so you always want to be ready to provoke her when she might run off and attack a teammate. This can happen whenever someone dies or immediately after any special, and I just like hovering my finger over my Voke keybind at these sections for faster response times. Next can ignore your provoke at the beginning if you mistime it or if you do it too early. And then she'll also ignore any vokes during a special. So if you were to voke when she gives out Directional Smoke, for example, she'll just ignore it and then provoke will be on cooldown, which would make her attack a teammate and you wouldn't be able to provoke her off for a few seconds. If she runs off of you, you want to evoke her as soon as you can and step accordingly to where she ran to recenter her to the best of your ability. And you pretty much just want to move opposite of her direction. So if she runs to the northeast, you're going to step southwest of the center, and that should put her back in the middle. One important thing to remember, and it may be hard at first to start doing, but if she is to run off of you, just fix her as soon as you can and leave her there. You don't want to keep moving her around, which is going to affect the team DPS or cancel channeled abilities and that sort of thing. So once you've already tried to center her, even if she's a step out, you just want to stand there and then the whole team can move accordingly to flank or whatnot. But this is going to be better than keep trying to move her to the center. Moving next can also be a pain just because of her anti-walk mechanics. It's always important to keep a 2-step distance from her during the majority of the fight. If you were to go melee distance, there's the potential that she'll run behind you or any other direction than in front of you. And this is important to keep in mind when you're dropping the directional smokes. So you just want to keep a 2-step radius from her at all times when you're moving around her to make sure that she's not moving. And then a few other tips. You want to save your Excalibur special until you get iced. And if you don't, just use it in the third phase. And then if you're using a Beast of Burden, you can keybind the withdraw from BOB. And you drag the summoning icon onto your ability bar. And you can make the left click option a custom keybind to withdraw from your BOB if you didn't know this already. Now getting into the fight, you want to stand west of the center. If you're doing the method where the team stands melee distance to her, you're going to stand one north and one west of the center. You want to activate your book or scrimshaw, and then you're going to sunshine. In this clip, I sunshine maybe a second or two early, so you just want to make sure you're doing it right before she's attackable. Most likely she's going to aggro onto someone on your team, so wait until she does that and then hit provoke, and then she'll be on you. You may have to take a step to make sure that she's facing west. For the element special, you're going to move into a quadrant she's not facing and flank, and you're going to pray soul split. And then it's important to remember to move back melee distance to prevent her from moving after this special. At 2.1 mil HP, you're going to kill nearby Reavers, and you got to make sure that you run back melee distance to her to prevent her from moving. This is especially important for this part because it's right before the mid-lore, and you don't want her to be out of the center. During the amalgamation spawn, the base is going to help Glacies, Kuror, and Fumus amalgamations. An example rotation is to Wild Magic on the G amalgamation, and then use basics on C, and then you're going to want to sunshine on C, and this helps make sure that you can sunshine again early enough when it's off cooldown to do a full sunshine rotation when Nex has about a mil or 1.1 mil HP. Once the C amalgamation dies, you're going to go to F and finish that, and then turn to Nex and focus on phasing to 1.8 mil HP. You can miss the 1.8 mil checkpoint if your team DPS is lacking, and what happens is Nex will jump again for a second element, and you want to prepare to evoke her so she's not on a teammate. Visually, she might be centered, but she might be meleeing an entangler, for example. And you just want to prepare to move and recenter her to the best of your ability because she can take several steps outside of the center if this checkpoint is failed. Once her HP reaches 1.8 mil, this is the most important section for getting ready to evoke because the minion should be mid-lord and Nex should be centered for AoE attacks and chins. And if she moves, this can be problematic for the meleeer and slow down the fight. So once you hit 1.8 mil HP, she'll be unattackable for a few seconds. And because of this, she's most likely to run off and attack another teammate because they're using AoEs or chins and they might hit AoD before you. One method to help prevent this is to step backwards and then forwards again to help reset your auto attack. Then you're going to spam click Nex's head or upper body and hit Voke once your auto attack spell leaves your weapon. And just like entangling, this will be quicker with a wand and orb rather than a staff. You don't want to click on her lower body because you might accidentally click on a minion and Voke that instead if you're not careful. If she runs off, you're just going to Voke as soon as possible and step in the reverse direction to help center her or get her close. And just remember that even if she does move, just focus on keeping her still, and then the team can move around her, and that's going to be more important than trying multiple times just to get her to the center. If she aggroes on Fumus or Kuror entangler, then it is best to call and voice in public chat that you'll be moving her and make sure the meleeer knows, and then bring her through the center to try to center her. Once you have moved, just stop wherever you end up, and then the team can move from there. But it is worth trying once if she runs behind you when you're in the center. From here on, you're just going to DPS like normal. And like I mentioned before, you're going to be sunshining again between 1 million and 1.1 million HP. And then you're just going to use your adrenaline pot and do a sunshine rotation leading up to 600k. I will now go over how to deal with different specials as the base. The first special I'm going to go over is the smoke pool, and the base doesn't have to do anything for this special. But what I like to do is take a step to angle Nex away from the team if the pool is behind where you stand. And you just want to remember to keep a 2-step distance to prevent her from moving. For directional smokes, how you deal with them depends on the direction that it comes from. You're always going to want to call the direction in public chat. And the smoke will come out as Nex's second auto attack hits you. So you want to plan to move as the second auto attack is hitting you to avoid taking smoke damage. And I highly recommend taking 1 step at a time instead of thinking that you clicked for 2 steps and you actually take 3 and move her from where she was standing. Smoke from the east is going to be the easiest one to deal with. What you're going to want to do is take 2 steps north or south, wait until Nex's second auto attack hits you, and then return to where you were. If you get from the north, there are a few ways to deal with this. The method I will show involves dropping a smoke on next so it doesn't cancel any of your teammates' channeled abilities if you were to move her a step. So what you do is take 2 steps north or south. You're going to take 2 steps again so you're centered either above or below next. You're going to wait and then move as the second auto attack hits you and then return to where you were. And then just remember to take 1 step at a time to make sure that you're not accidentally moving her out of the center. For ice, you're going to call I in the chat like normal and keep attacking next. You're going to freedom and use the Excalibur special for the heal over time effect. And you can also use anticipation to take 10% less damage. Eat to full and prepare to combo eat with your brew, food, and jellyfish to stay alive. One thing to note is that she can run off and attack the team while you're iced and you're unable to provoke her. So just call it in public or voice chat and ask them to switch their prayer as needed. And you should switch to magic prayer while she's off you and then just switch to melee once she's back on you again. If she did run off, just prepare to evoke as soon as you can. One of the other important things to be able to do is to move her correctly in phase 3. So when X has about 620k HP left, you're going to surge to the west wall to prevent your team from taking shadows. And as you're running or moving, always Voke at 600k no matter what, because she can random aggro onto the team and run away from you. You're going to move her to the final pillar that the Chin are called so that your team can soul split for the first 3 pillars. Another thing to keep in mind is you'll be taking relatively high magic hits through prayer, which sometimes hit as high as 2,500 or 3,000 through prayer. So you just want to make sure you're keeping your HP high just in case. And then you can feel free to use shield abilities like preparation or resonance or other defensives while you're waiting for the final pillar to activate, because you're not able to do damage anyway. Another thing to keep in mind is that if someone dies in P3, next can run melee distance to you, and you just want to call it so that your team knows not to bomb pillars directly. And the reason you do this is because if the base has to run to the center for a bomb, it'll activate any of the bombs and also send magic attacks to your team, which could kill them if they're unaware. So you just want to keep communicating your movement and call when you go to the center and tell them to pray magic. Now I will demonstrate how to position her correctly at the 4th pillar. So you're going to run to the final pillar and then run past it to the center of the lines dividing the room into quadrants. And if you do this correctly, next will be centered diagonally when you're looking from the pillar to the center. As long as you do this correctly, next will not move if you run to the center to take a bomb, which means that she won't activate any bombs at the other 3 pillars, and she also won't throw any magic attacks at the team. One thing to keep in mind while setting this up is you may have to take an additional step or 2 to make sure that she's pulled correctly so she won't be sending magic attacks or activating bombs while the team is running to the other pillars. While you're waiting for the team to attack the other pillars, you want to make sure that you're building to 100% adrenaline. And then while the team is attacking the 3rd pillar, you want to add your debuffs onto next. So use your G-Staff. You want to look for the purple claw underneath her to make sure that the G-Staff spec didn't splash. And then rebuild to 100% adrenaline. You also want to use Vuln or any other helpful debuffs such as Stagger or Enfeeble. You can also Vuln the final pillar before the team gets there. If you are marked for a bomb, just make sure that she's centered like I described before, and then you can run to the center. You don't want to run directly into the center, but kind of stand on the edge to make sure she won't be moving. And then you want to place a bomb along the dividing lines against the wall. So if Fumus Pillar is last, you could take it directly south from the center or directly west, for example. As the team comes to the final pillar, you want to make sure you're flanking if Fumus Pillar is last, and then you're going to attack it until it's about 30,000 health left. Then you're going to surge or escape back to the center to flip next so that your team can flank. You want to sunshine right after flipping next, and then you want to remember to end with 100% adrenaline at the end of the kill so that you don't need to use a dummy in between the kills. This concludes my solo basing guide, so thanks for watching and hopefully it helps. And you can always feel free to PM me in-game or on Discord if you have any questions.